Jefferson Smith is with us. He's an executive and host with Thank You Democracy. He's the host of the show, Thank You Democracy, on XRayF.FM, 91.1 FM in Portland, Oregon, which carries this program. Thank you very much for that, Jefferson. Welcome back to our program.
Good to be here, man. How you doing?
I'm great. I should add, your political biography is pretty impressive. The Bus Project, and you've been fighting the good fight, been out in the movement for years and years and years. So.
And thank you for not mentioning my 2 terms in the legislature. When it comes to doing advocacy, having actually been a politician in the belly of the beast, I'm not sure if that improves one's credentials or reduces them. So we can just sort of set that.
And former state representative Jefferson Smith, thank you for reminding me.
It may be in the interest of disclosure, but beyond that, let's talk about the issues.
Okay, and the issue, this is interesting. Oregon, I lived in Oregon for 5 years. Oregon is... And up until just a few months ago, owned a house in Oregon. Oregon is trying. Y'all are trying to get a. Is it a ban on genetically engineered crops, or is it just a labeling requirement for them?
So here's the background. I'll give you set the stage for right now. There is a fight right now in Jackson County, Oregon, which is southern Oregon. It's where Ashland is for people who enjoy the Shakespeare Festival. It's where Medford is, which is one of the 5, I think about the 5th biggest town, one of the top 5 towns in Oregon. It's a community of about 200,000 people. They are working on a ban of, at least within the county, use of genetically modified products and for new planting. With the run-up to that...
So this is to help the farmers so that they don't have cross-contamination of their crops by wind moving pollen around and stuff.
Exactly. Organic farming is a pretty important industry and an important community element in Jackson County.
Right.
The political background of this was the Paulette Pyle and Oregonians for Food and Shelter, which is the agribusiness chemical firm-backed organization, came to the legislature in the last special session. And it can take a minute, but there's really interesting background. It demonstrates kind of the political intrigue that happens around these issues. And towards the end of the session, when the Democrats and Republicans were deadlocked with the governor on a deal to get out of the session, it was a budget deal, came in and said, introduced a bill on preemption and said, all right, well, we'll help you get out of the session if you include within this budget deal a statewide preemption on genetically engineered restrictions and regulations. That was passed, and much to the chagrin of a lot of environmentalists, like, wait a minute, how did this possibly get in the mix of this end-of-session budget deal? This is not has anything to do with that. But within that preemption was, in fact, an exemption for the Jackson County case. So the Jackson County local initiative is going forward. They will have a chance to vote on this. And, Monsanto and the rest of the gang are pouring lots of money in to try to beat back that local initiative. I have more to say, but I should probably do it in response to a question.
Okay. Well, no, you're doing a great job of telling the story. I think the story behind the story here is that Oregon, with a relatively small population, but perceived as a state of some consequence, it has so often been a testing ground for right-wing wackadoodles and a battleground for programs and policies. How is it going? I mean, what's happening with this effort to stop? I mean, stopping the planting of genetically engineered products, that's a whole lot bigger than just simply labeling. How's it going?
Right. So first I want to respond to the Oregon thing. You're right that if you go further back, Oregon has a really robust tradition of progressive innovation, right? From the ballot initiative system to actually the first minimum wage to the first recognition of Labor Day to vote by mail for those folks who support vote by mail, from death to dignity. More recently, because it's compared to New York, New Jersey, California, et cetera, it's a relatively cheap date, right? To run for governor here costs $5 to $10 million instead of in New Jersey where it costs $50 million. And it has been a place where not progressive stuff has been introduced. Mm-hmm. Back to the history of the genetically modified kind of fight in Oregon. Back in 2002, there was a statewide initiative to require just labeling. And the concept of that had between 75 and 80+% support. The same folks, Pile, Oregon Food and Shelter, got Monsanto and one other chemical concern, I'm not sure if it was Dow, I forget who it was, to put in a combined $7 million. And that campaign against, grassroots folks putting this thing forward, and that thing, which started out with 70+% support, ended up losing with only 27% support. That was more than 10 years ago. So now the battle is joined again. Yes, in Jackson County, they have a pretty good campaign put together, but already now there's nearly $600,000, I think, as of newest report, to put in by chemical companies to beat it back, to make sure there isn't a toehold, that this doesn't become any sort of precedent setting for the conversation, something for people like you to talk around. Hey, look, people in Oregon are doing things about this stuff. And there's also a major lobbying effort to make sure that that anything that happens statewide is something that Monsanto will like. And because one of the things the governor said is, after saying statewide preemption, rather than putting in terms of preemption, he said, no, that means we're going to do something proactively statewide. So there is a commitment by multiple legislators, including people in the Democratic leadership who controls the legislature in Oregon, to some degree, at least by numbers, and that there will be something done, but it's entirely unclear what that's going to be. And there's a major lobbying effort to keep it from being something that's particularly toothy, shall we say?
Right. So, and do I have it right that the people who are on Monsanto's side, basically, the front group, is called Good Neighbor Farms?
Good Neighbor Farms is what you do have to love the names. That many of these organizations don't. They could have called it, chemistry for everybody, or but no, Good Neighbor Farms. No, they're real smart. Like Oregon Food and Shelter, who's against that? That sounds wonderful, right?
Right.
But if I gave you the list of things they worked on, they'd be, not the things that people would think maybe that meant. They pick names for the fight, which sound really good. The move used to be being provocative with the names. They'd create a committee, and it'd be like, "Don't let stupid liberals do dumb stuff committee." And I'm not really exaggerating on that kind of name. It was funny. It's the kind of thing that would have to be said at the end of a broadcast. Right.
I remember meeting the guy who came up with those names. He's actually a very funny guy. I'm forgetting his name.
Guy. Now the move is a little different. Now the move is to come up with something. Yes, Good Neighbor Farms, which is an organization fighting the GE crop ban, and it's funded by, I think, 6 pesticide and plant biotech firms. And they're dealing with about $500,000 in the bank, a little better than that. I think that by the time this is all told, it'll be more than that. In fact, my guess is it'll be as much as is required to beat it.
And this election is in May?
Yes, it's on the May ballot.
Yeah. Well, this is going to be very interesting. We'll get you back after it happens, and we can dissect it, okay?
All right, man. Thanks a lot for doing what you're doing.
Indeed. My pleasure. Jefferson Smith, host over at xrayf.fm. And that's the website, xray.fm. And we will be right back.
Tom Hartman Program. Visit TomHartman.com for audio and video archive.